2025, I'll start with the karakia. Whakatakati ho ki guru, whakatakati ho ki te tonga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia matara tara ki tai, e he aki ana te atakira, e teo, e hoka, e huanga, homi e, hui e, taiki e. And welcome. Hope everybody had a good summer break and looking forward to the challenges and of course all of the opportunities ahead of us for 2025. There is no public forum. Is there any urgent business? There is not. In that case, we'll go straight to agenda item on page 10, the committee minutes, and we will do a page turn. Page 10, as we were, page 11, any questions? Page 12. Page 13, I've got one, and the question is probably more to you, Steve, and it's the Isaacs contract. Has that now been signed?
Yes.
Thank you. Any other questions on page 13? Page 14?
Yes.
Question, Councillor Finch.
3/4 way down the page, do we have a date? Well, water notice Waihola, and it says, however, not everyone in Milton Township is connected to the new pipeline. That should be Waihola.
I've amended that before it gets signed.
Thank you. Other questions on 14, 15, 16? A lot of minutes, isn't it? 17 and page 18. Third, do we have a mover?
Happy to move.
Councillor Herbert, Councillor Payne, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Page 19, which is my report, and just give you an overview of the report. So we held our workshop last Wednesday, and that was held for the purpose of developing our 2025 work program. The agenda and background information, of course, was circulated to all councillors and key staff prior to Christmas, and my thanks to those of you who fed back information prior to the workshop that we're able to incorporate in discussion on the day. During the workshop, we considered the traditional reporting format for agenda papers. We acknowledged what is helpful in our decision making, and we identified what we don't need or we don't need regularly in the future, and also additional information that would assist. We also discussed the continued need for reports to be duplicated at other committees, given that all councillors have copies of the R&A agenda and have the opportunity to attend and speak at this meeting. As we consider each report today, we'll recall the discussion of areas and agreed changes for those reports, so we emphasise that. Although we were meeting last Wednesday and discussing how to effect some changes, we acknowledge behind the scenes the reports for today had in fact already been written. So what we're doing today is farewelling a lot of those traditional reports. In respect to the need to duplicate the R&A reports and other committee agendas, the workshop requested this practice continue in the interim, but to avoid the need for staff to attend two meetings, it was agreed that in the future either myself or my nominee would present these papers and advise the outcomes of discussions at R&A. So my report addresses the recommendation that we'll make to council and the process for engagement staff on the changes in the last paragraph, and the reason is it's to do specifically with terms of reference, and we need to get through today just to make sure that we're again all comfortable with those. I guess the significant change to the agenda papers in the future will be the inclusion of the previously presented papers to the PCG. As a result of councillors' level of interest in project delivery, budget, resource and cost impact, it was agreed that in the future these reports will come to R&A, as this is a formal committee recognised by council, and of course the PCG group is not. And it was consistent with a a lot of conversations I had with you leading up to the discussion last week around the information on projects in terms of cost, in terms of budgeted costs, should I say, make sure we're still on track, operational costs and impact on budgets in future years, and of course delivery dates. So we'll be talking extensively to staff over the next few weeks, and in fact I've already started that, Sharon and I, this morning, just in terms of the content and what that might look like. Well aware of the need to make sure that the debate that's held in PCG continues and that is not stymied. So we'll continue to review the process and tinker with it as we do. We acknowledge that some of the agreed changes could question current governance arrangements. However, we noted and it was accepted that governance makeup was outside the brief of this committee and that any discussion on that matter would be held by full council, noting, of course, the potential for change given the reduction in councillor numbers after this year's election. Finally, thanks to everybody for your attendance, for your input, either at the meeting or leading up to the meeting. I believe that we've made some pretty positive decisions to assist us in our 2025 work programme. So with that, happy to answer any questions. If not, I will, Councillor Ludeman, sorry.
Just one question. I'm a wee bit concerned about the PCG meeting being included in the audit and risk meeting. I think it has been very beneficial in the format that it's been in previously. To me, the preference to that would be that the actual chair of audit and risk perhaps attended the PCG meeting, but I would actually prefer that the PCG meeting remains separate, just because of the input that we do get. It's a very good round the table discussion at the PCG meeting, and yeah, that's my concern.
So my question of you would be, how many councillors are going to PCG? Because the questions that I'm getting are around gaps in that information. And that's what drove the suggested change in the first instance.
Pretty much most of the executive go to the PCG, and this morning there were 2 extras that weren't on the exec that were at the PCG.
Yeah.
No, Wayne was there. And
I said, was too sorry, you're right, sorry. Where's he gone?
So the suggestion from council was leading up to and during the discussion last week was the need to get in front of all council or a recognised committee of council cost, variations, future cost, operation, delivery, etc. That information.
that can still come through normal reports that would come to council from the department it was. It's just, it's been very good for very honest discussion with all staff involved in a specific contract, which we won't get. We might get one staff. We've had a really robust, I feel, discussion in the projects that we've had.
Sure.
So it's just my...
Just open that up for comment from other. I'm aware of the discussion last Wednesday and which led to the position that we've got, so we're just interested in the views of other councillors. Councillor Graham.
Yes, through you. I'm just concerned that because when we include it in risk and assurance, we're going to include more projects.
Category A projects only.
Yeah, and the time that we allocate for the projects at PCG, I can see if you're doing it for 10 projects, it's going to add considerable time.
3. It'll just be for 3 as per PCG.
I thought it was discussed at that last week that we would include all the category A projects that we only got 3.
Sorry, 3 was today. My confusion.
Yeah, the lights off. 10 projects, if we allocated the same time that we have on the projects that we did today, it would probably add a couple of hours to our workload.
So the idea is that we start at 9:30, not 10:30. And the discussion that Sharon and I were having this morning was in terms of the format. We talked about one side of an A4 for each project, dealing in those specific areas of interest.
So we're actually diluting the level that we discuss these projects in.
Not the intention, no. Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, I was going to, I'm actually going to support you and say, well, I was actually really relaxed about with this. We did discuss it. We did discuss that we would be starting around the time. I don't really think we're going to dilute the conversations at all, and it is totally about the format. Absolutely, totally about how we tie the horse up or whatever. Yeah. Totally. I'm still very comfortable about it, and I'm happy to run with what we decided.
Thank you. Councillor Finch.
I think we can give it a try. We can always go back, and if it does stymie the conversation, if it doesn't turn out, then we can go back.
That's my thinking exactly. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Talk about it.
Okay. Right, with that, I will move my report. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Graham, all in favour?
Aye.
And against, carried. Work plan report. So this is the high-level outcome to last week's discussion. Sharon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is what we ended up with coming out of our workshop, and I just have to say that we're going to add one more line though. I didn't put in the exception reporting for the KPIs. It's going to be every quarter, so it'll be pretty much every second meeting. So I'm just going to add in the performance monitoring of non-financials, and it was to be exception reporting only, so only where the KPIs failed.
Any questions of Sharon or myself on the work plan for the year? If not, do I have a mover? Councillor Finch, seconded Councillor Payne, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Page 22, risk status progress report. Christina, welcome. One of the outcomes that we discussed at the workshop last week was a deep dive report, which we will be preparing every second meeting, and quite appropriate today's subject around mana whenua partnerships and the treaty. Christina.
Thank you, tēnā koutou katoa. So this risk was added to our risk profile following our internal review undertaken by PwC and from the interviewed elected members. So since then, we've made some really awesome, significant progress in terms of our relationship building with iwi and meeting our te tiriti obligations. So really proud of that for our organisation, and a lot of credit goes to the leadership who have been involved in that, and especially Olivia Restillo for all the mahi that goes into this as well. So happy to take the report as read, answer any questions.
Questions of Christina? Christina, I have a couple. First one around frequency of meetings with local iwi.
So Olivia and I are meeting with Okaha on every 6 weeks. That is part of our service level agreement, one of the achievements that we were able to obtain last year. So meeting with them every 6 weeks. And we meet with Te Ao Marama on a least frequent basis. So last year we met with them twice. We're working on our relationship with Hokanui Raunaka, and we've met with them 3 times last year. And plan and have scheduled further hui with all of those organisations.
And copies of meeting notes, are they circulated to everybody for information?
No.
That could be.
Yes, they are available on our file. So yeah, they're there. I do take good record keeping, and they're available to the leadership, and they go out to select people, but they can be shared wider.
And out of the last meeting, is there any current issues that we need to be aware of?
The key things that we're working on and meeting now are conditions under our resource consents. But the feedback that we're getting from iwi at the moment is how impressed they are with the progress that we are making and how they can see the genuine, our genuine engagement and what we are doing to do good. So we've been getting really good feedback from them, and they have also added that to their annual report. So that is documented from them, which is really positive.
Good. Councillor Ludeman?
Probably to Christina, is there any chance that, I don't know, councillors can meet at some stage with their, I just think it would be quite good. I accept staff are doing it for us, but I actually also think it would be good if at some stage councillors were given the opportunity to meet. A thought.
So through you, Mr. Chairman, I mean, that is part of the progression, but I do recall in the early stages of, just starting the process, there was, comments made by iwi that, the governance side is very important, but we've got to take a number of steps first before that happens. And so that part of the progress hasn't yet been discussed with council even in terms of that side of it. So it is part of the program yet to be achieved, because it is critical. The governance side is the most important one, but there was an indication that we need to be making some progress together, both governance and management, along the journey before that part of the relationship then progresses. So we do have to build that into the program, and that's just another element we need to work with you on and work within the program. So we haven't brought that to you in terms of that, but it is going to have to be part of the work program side.
It was one of those training opportunities that was identified at the workshop last week. And personally, I think it would be good if a meeting with local iwi was part of the new council induction program post-election as well. Councillor Kennedy?
Going forward, Christina, well done. Also, to pop in there our whenua boundaries, so that councils actually realise who we deal with in certain areas, because it is all different. And going forward, new councillors may not know that. Okay.
Yes, thank you. We can add that to the induction.
Yeah, great suggestion.
Again, just through you, Mr. Chair, what we've also found though is that there is overlap in boundaries. So I'm sure that any map we produce won't be a.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, I understand that, but it just gives you a rough idea that no, you're never going to deal with that. You're not there. Go move to this area.
Understand.
Thank you.
Councillor Graham?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. And your report says that iwi and that are happy with. Are you happy with the progress that we are making in our relationship?
I am always wanting to improve. But in the progress that we've made, I'm so happy. It's one of the most proudest part of my jobs. And working with Olivia and the progress that we have made is something that we're really proud of. So yes, and we have, and really impressed with how leadership has supported that over this year. So we've made some really good progress, and it's just hopefully we just keep going on the path.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Payne?
So just a wee addition to that, Christina, to you. I've really enjoyed Waikoa being part of the citizenships and coming on board with that. doing the tour with Ruth Baldwin. I think that's fantastic. Keep it going because I missed the tour last year and I really want to do it this year. She's got a huge wealth of knowledge and it's great to get for her to share it with us. So,
Thank you. Yeah, that's a really good indication of where other staff have come in and contributed.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks to Anna for those.
But I am mindful too that it's more than just Ruth. It's a whole.
In the tours that they are coming up again.
Thanks, Christina. Page 22, we have a recommendation that the committee receives Christina's report, moved by councillor Kennedy, seconded by councillor Graham. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you very much. Daniel, welcome. Turn to page 26 of the agenda.
Good morning. I'm here to present the protozoal and bacterial compliance report and take it as being read and willing to take any questions through you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Herbert, looking immediately to you. Page number, you've quite rightly raised comments about commentary, which I noted hadn't been changed. I've lost my page now. So.
Page 30.
The report, the notes have been updated. Are you satisfied that that's?
I've got nothing marked on my agenda, Mr. Chair, so there's no questions for Daniel. I've already told him he can have the rest of the day off.
So Daniel, can I ask a question about Moa Flat? So the UV treatment started in December 24. Anything to report back so far in terms of progress?
I'm not personally involved in that trial. That's our external process engineer that's running that. So he's still looking at a lot of the data that's coming through. It hasn't even been 3 months yet.
Linda might be able to.
Linda may be able to give more information about that if she's. Or believe in
Jules. Yeah.
It's a big dog.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we actually did meet with the Water Scheme Committee late last year and went through what has been done to the plant, what we're trialling now. Whilst the UV is in operation, unfortunately the treatment plant's got to be operating at a higher level and more reliably for that to meet the protozoa disinfection requirements. So there's a current trial to trial a different media to go into the filter, and there's potentially one or two other options if that doesn't work to try and get it compliant. And we are still working with the contractor who upgraded it, which we have not paid the retentions on that contract as yet. And part of that is a discussion with them around their obligations to meet the standards. There's a bit of debate about that because it's actually, there was issues with the contractor at the time and a whole range of other issues. So it is quite complicated from a contractual perspective as well. But they have made a commitment to be working with us to try and get that over the line. And with the operations team and Ian Rabbits, there's about 3 different options that are being explored to try and get that up to where it needs to be compliant. And we did discuss with the committee that the current plant might need to be completely overhauled to meet the current standards. There might be other options that the committee want to explore with the community before we get to that stage. So that's something that may be coming up for discussion later on this year once the current trials are finished.
Thanks, Jules.
Do you want to add, Jules, that carbon trial is going to go right for 3 months and then they're going to test the media inside that, aren't they? Test how much.
Yeah, and we are starting to see a drop-off in the performance of that. So what we didn't want to do is change all the carbon and find that actually it's in 4 months' time it's no longer doing what it needs to do. But yeah, that will be coming up probably later on. The 3 months should be up later on in March. It started in December.
I look forward to those results. Councillor Finch and then
Thank
Councillor Graham.
you. On page 30 also, North Bruce, can you tell me there's a plan in place to remove the centre column within the clarifier to change how water passes through the clarifier? Can you explain how that works? Anything about it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll pass that to Jules. He's standing right there.
So exactly like Moa Flat, the upgrade at North Bruce was done by a company that does water upgrades all around the country. They have been working with their operations teams to try and sort out what can we do to get this over the line. Now, there might be some of that cost or some controls that are their responsibility. There might be things that were outside of their scope of work. So it's to try and make the current clarifier work more effectively exactly the same thing to get the water to a standard where the UV can be compliant for protozoa. All of these, both of these supplies have been been compliant. We've had no E. coli results or T. coli results, positive results, but we're not meeting our protozoa compliance, which if you go back 5 or 8 years, we had most of our schemes were not protozoa compliant and we had upgrade plans to work on them. But the regulatory regime's changed, and if you're not fully compliant, we need a boil water notice to be put in place, which is exactly the issue with North Bruce and Noel Flat.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jules. Councillor Graham.
Yes, through you, Mr Chair. On the protozoa compliance, I noticed the Kaitangata plant isn't there on page 29. Is that because it's under the Wongaloa scheme or something? Or because I noticed it's down there. Why isn't it in there?
It's
That
on
table.
27, it's on there. Sorry, bacteriological. Through you, Mr Chair, that may just be a slight error. It is included within, on page 32,
With the Wongaloa.
Kaitangata and Wongaloa.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay.
Sorry, just probably through you, Mr Chairman, just to clarify, I think that first table is all about urban schemes, and because Kaitangata supplies an urban and a rural scheme, that second table is all the rest of the plants that are a combination of rural, so that's why it's not on that first table.
Thank you, Jules. Other questions? If not, the recommendation to receive is on page 26. Do we have a mover? Councillor Finch, seconded. Councillor Herbert. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thanks, Daniel. Linda, welcome. Three Waters report is on page 34.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Present the report for expenditure year to date. Happy to take any questions.
So just a couple of financial questions, Linda, for me. Overall, we're over budget by $500,000. Do we see that being retrieved by the end of the year? So key rates on page 37 are behind by 463, which I assume is timing. And then on page 38, correctly note the underspend in planned maintenance, but I assume that's offset by the overspend in non-routine expenditure.
Correct. In terms of the rates, I'll need Sharon to.
Through you, Mr Chair, the rates one is, when we did our budgeting, we put all our costs in for water and we say, we've got this income, go away and tell us the difference, that's what we rate for. So that's how the system works. But then with the Greenfield, what's it called now? Balmoral to Puka scheme, there was a decision made to keep the rates at this level and progressively work up. So the budget had the rates in at a different amount as we actually struck. So that's going to be a gap that will be carried forward as an opening balance in the Balmoral to Puka water scheme to be recovered as the rates go up gradually per the water scheme's decision.
So by the end of the financial year, we'll be back where we should be.
Through you, Mr Chair, no, it'll take 3 or 4 years potentially.
Right. Linda, the other financial question I've got on page 39, it's with respect to capital expenditure. So 6-month budget, 14 mil, we've spent 6. Annual expected budget is 28. Do we expect to spend all of that? Or do we see a lag going through to next year?
Through you, Mr Chair, that's our capital delivery works that is managed through the infrastructure services and delivery.
Through you, Mr Chair.
There you go.
No, we don't expect to spend all that for the year because we made some decisions for our annual plan about deferring some work. And we've got some carry forwards that are going to go forward as well that aren't going to be completed, which will be coming to a workshop on the 20th of February.
Sure.
So just Summarising though, Mr Chairman, there's a rate solution to the rates component of that overspend you were describing, which is a multi-year solution that we'll be looking to address. So that just leaves the over expenditure in terms of the just normal expenditure, which is the 220,000 or whatever it is for that period. I think we identified that the 3 water budgets were not 100%. We're not going to be 100% accurate for the expenditure for this year. We did expect it to be a heck of a lot closer than it was to the previous deficit year. And so we are pleasantly comforted by the fact that we aren't blowing it like it was before, that the budgets are a lot closer for that activity. But also, Linda, just as all other activity managers, are looking seriously at what the expenditure is with a view to reducing the deficit if a deficit is to occur by taking actions. And if not, other activities will make savings as opposed to having deficits. So that's Linda's objective, and so it's good to see the 6-month point where it sits. We're not expecting that to do more than at worst case double if that was the case in total, but there's an expectation that that deficit figure be reduced as a result of actions that her activity is taking too. So they're very mindful of that side of it. So that's the objective for this year. And I think we then are looking to the budget for next year to nail it so that actually it's correct for the activity. And the savings that she's also looking at, or the activity expenditure reductions and other bits and pieces that's being looked at now, will be reflected and impacted in that budget next year too. So there are positives associated with the budget process arising from this thing.
Thank you for that. Councillor Funch.
No, Steve's answered my
Answer the
question.
question, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Linda. My question is on page 35. The table there at the top, the net for the 6-month budget and 4-year budget is 0. Is that?
Through you, Mr Chair. Yeah, that's exactly correct, because it's not like what I said before. We'll put a capital project in and we'll fund that by a loan or reserves or something. We put all our costs in, we put all our income in, and then we hit a button and it goes away and says we need to rate for this. So it'll always add to 0, and that's what we aim for. Because in there we've got income, we've got expenditure. That includes our capital funding as well.
So if I go through those numbers and add and subtract, it will come out 0.
Mm-hmm. The budget will.
My second quick question, and it's probably the same, is just on page 37, and looked at about the 5th one down, says out of district water. There's a variance there of 240,000. So that's just a timing thing that's just come in early, or
Through you, Mr Chair. No, that is a rate. It's shown as rates in the budget, but then we have to pull it out. We can't actually rate it.
but that's the second. That raises my second question: why is it 0 in the budget?
Because it's in rates in the budget. That's another part of that variance. Because we have so many units in district and so many out of district, and to get the unit rate, we take what we need and divide it by the units. Yeah. And so that's how we budget it, but then we can't legally send a rates assessment to people who don't live in our district. So we have to pull it out of there and invoice it separately.
So you should be looking at the
those two combined.
2 rows should be combined.
We can't report on them together or anything. We can't.
I suppose just from a business point of view, you're saying you're going to get this $240,000, but yet we haven't budgeted for it because the 6-month budget figure is 0. You know you're going to get it, but it's a 0.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we can move that. We can move the budget.
So effectively what we're doing is the 1100 line, 11, 15, 16, 18, 21, 23, 38, 48, 76 should actually be read as 1.
Not 48, 76.
Not 48, 76. So the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines can be read as 1. Is that correct? Okay. Other questions or comments? Everyone happy? Do we have a mover for Linda's report? I will move from the chair. Seconder is Councillor Graham. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Next report is the Treasury Management Report on page 40, and totally on cue. Greg's just walked through the door.
You're up the top.
Do not sit down. Come and see us.
Mr. Chair, everybody. Yeah, the Treasury report this time. So just to report back on the latest NECO results. So we had 588k unrealised gain in November and 356k unrealised loss in December. But we still had our quarterly distributions reinvested of 173k. So that results in a year-to-date cumulative return on investment of 4.22%. Current borrowings is 133,800,000, and for the next report I'll prepare a breakdown exactly what that's made up of. And I just wanted to summarise a few of the key points from the Bancorp and MJW reports that are attached agenda item. So the Reserve Bank of NZ cut the official cash rate by 100 basis points in October and November to take it to 4.25%. Delivering the monetary policy statement in November, the Reserve Bank expressed confidence that inflation was near the midpoint of the 1 to 3% inflation target. GDP result revealed a 1% decline in the September quarter, while annual measure fell 1.5%, representing the weakest 6-month period since 1991, excluding COVID periods. Both of the reports mentioned the US election results as a significant factor on market conditions. So over the quarter, upward movement in US long-term rates saw significant changes in the shape of the NZ yield curve, resulting in substantial changes in forward start swap pricing. However, the typical correlation between NZ and US long-term rates has temporarily broken down following GDP numbers, which has helped deliver more attractive swap rates. US election results saw the US dollar strengthen, interest rates are moving upwards in the US income administration's policies in areas such as immigration and tax were judged to be more inflationary. And MJW notes that for most investors, focus should be directed to the long-term mission and avoid the temptation to react to short-term market ructions. And I was just going to answer one question that was raised at the last meeting about the portfolio closing balances. So the Treasury dashboard shows a closing balance at the exit price, which is the price that a seller would receive in exchange for the sale of an asset, or would pay to transfer a liability at measurement date. Whereas the summary of transactions since inception report shows the closing balance at fair value, which is the actual value of an asset agreed upon by both the seller and buyer in accordance with how we are required to show this in our annual report. But going with our condensed reporting as agreed at the workshop last week, we'll just show the exit price value is in the Treasury dashboard. So yeah, take any other questions or discussion?
Thanks, Greg. Questions of Greg? Just Councillor Herbert.
Just a quick one. When will you know January's results for the NECO?
Yeah, we should get that any time. It usually comes in about the 5th or 6th of the month. So
that's what I'm asking. I just wonder, like, just given that we're sort of rolling down to the end of the year, and on page 44, yeah, the lines couldn't almost be closer, so we're pretty much bang on. But it'll be nice to hear. Thank you. Nice to hear about that.
So one of the things we decided at the workshop last week, as Greg said, are some significant changes to the reports, particularly around the borrowing, which all councillors were interested in, was not only the level of borrowing, but the allocation of that borrowing and our projected through the rest of the financial year. So as Greg's just said, that will be shown to us next meeting, which is mid-March. And there'll also be the removal of some pages. The NECO will only be reported every second meeting. And of course, the Bancorp report comes in quarterly. The Bancorp come and present to the council.
they do occasionally when we request them to. So
yeah,
potentially we could get them to come sometime soon. Yeah.
Okay. Councillor McAtamaney.
Can I ask, how much do we pay for those Bancorp reports and things? Roughly.
Through you, Mr Chair. We pay, I'd have to look up the NJW one, Melchizedek Weaver, with Bancorp, we pay them about
2,300
a month, yeah.
So not a lot, because a lot of it.
Yeah, it's also for the advice they give us on how to borrow, when we need to borrow, and keeping us within our policy guidelines and telling us whether it's short-term, long-term, how to get the best rate.
Yeah, it's not a lot of money, yeah. There's a lot of it you could probably get off the back of the ODT.
Yeah. Other questions? There are none. The recommendation is on page 40 to receive the Treasury Management Report, moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded Councillor Finch. All in favour?
Aye.
And it is carried. Page 72. Trey, welcome.
Good everybody. Just to answer a few questions that were raised at the last meeting. So one of those was around what's actually contained in the receivables and prepayments. So that's stuff, things that we invoice for but we haven't quite received yet. So stuff like the NZTA reimbursement, and it's other things that we've already paid but we haven't allocated out yet. So things like insurance where we pay it early but it takes us a while to figure out what business unit needs to pay for what. And also things like wages, because that also takes a bit of time to figure out who actually got paid rather than just a big lump sum. And also there was a question around why the rates were lower than the budgets, but hopefully Sharon's answered that question already. But outside of that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
And who has one of those questions? Councillor Ludeman.
Just a question on rate arrears and the ability to show us what current rate arrears are.
Through you, Mr Chair. Yeah, we're working on how to do that. We can do it quite easily at the end of a year because we have to do it for annual report and we have a cut-off point. And what we're thinking is adding it to potentially the corporates, the finance team reporting in the committees this afternoon each quarter, because the timing of it's quite tricky in that if we do it now, it'll look like people owe us about $9 million because rates aren't due until the end of the month. If we do it like the 7th of March, then we can pull out the credit balances and those who owe us money and report it that way. So that's what we're thinking about, adding that to the committee report in the afternoons.
Okay, I think it'll be useful. Yeah.
So you recall the discussion we had last Wednesday on financial reports and the changes that are going to be implemented. So from the next meeting forward, these reports will focus on exception reporting and will have monthly projected figures out to the end of the financial year. Also, in discussion with one of your colleagues, we talked about the benefit of cash flow reporting, and that will be in addition to the financial reports. From next meeting forward will be a monthly cash flow projection as well through to the end of the financial year. So very much looking forward to those. We also talked about in our training the reading of financial reports. So I intend to spend a wee bit of time at the next meeting just going through the quick read, things you're looking for, questions to ask, red flags where they're there, and the answers that you should be looking for to get comfort on financial matters. Any further questions or comments? Councillor McAtamaney.
Yeah, can I just ask a question I actually just discussed with David about it? It's on the interest revenue and the revenue, and a fair chunk of that is the either gains or losses from the NICO fund. Why is it included in the operating statements when that money from the NICO fund isn't actually available to you and the finance team to use as a, I know from the accounting point of view, but it's not money available. So if you have a gain of $1 million a year, it's effectively $1 million you haven't got to spend.
Through you, Mr. Chair. That's exactly correct. It's what we would have if we whipped our money out today. It's the gains we would make. And we have to report on it like that for accounting. It's the same as depreciation.
Yeah.
But when we do our cash flow reporting, it won't be there.
Yeah. Because leading on to that, the depreciation, quite a chunk of that, but some of that is actually drawn down and used.
Yes, it's funded through our budgets and put away for future use, but
And used as internal loans.
yes,
Yeah, so it is actually usable. Yeah.
yes, if we funded it is. A lot of it's not funded. A lot of roading's not funded. And stuff we have to put it in there, and it.
So it's book how much is book entry depreciation and how much is actual depreciation taken out to use for internal loans?
Very good question.
The majority of that is pretty like depreciation on the road, so it's depreciation we can't use. Like
So it's a book.
probably
Yes.
80% at least, something like that.
Yeah, okay, it's all going to be nice. You lead into the cash flow, a lot of that will be flushed out.
Yeah.
Because it's just very hard to get a handle on what I'm seeing that the book entry projected deficit for the year. It's very hard to get a gauge on what the actual cash loss is. But yeah, no, it'll be good.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of the cash flow report is to actually separate that distinction.
It'll flush
Well,
it
a
out.
general question of staff, what trends are we seeing, negative or positive, that we possibly won't be able to arrest by the end of the financial year?
Through you, Mr. Chair. That we will know better at the next meeting because Trey's about to set up one-on-ones with all the budget owners to go through the 6-month results. We've only done the 3 months results so far. So each 3 months, he's going to meet with the budget owners of each business unit and talk about what they've spent against budget and why it's different, what they predict for the rest of the year, and if it's not going to be within budget, what are you going to do about it and how are we going to address it? And then that's how we're going to get our cash flow reporting. So our cash flow will be updated each quarter, but our actuals will be updated each month. And so at this stage, we've only had 3 months of data that we've delved into real deeply, but next meeting, we will tell you what we're worried about, if anything. But I will say, things are looking much more positive this year, with actuals against budget, and people are making a real effort to stay in their lane.
Good to hear. Any final questions? If not, the recommendation is on page 72, receive the financial monitoring report. Moved by Councillor Payne, seconded Councillor Herbert, all in favour?
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you, Trey, for that. Now move to the non-financial monitoring report, and again, this is one which will be significantly refined as a result of the outcome of discussion at the workshop last week. Trey.
So my main comment today would be on these wastewater faults. So since this agenda going to print, Linda's team's done quite a lot of work around accurately recording that type of stuff. So we had an issue where we weren't time stamping stuff when we'd actually finished, and we had a few missing fields. So a lot of the internal data was being missed, and we were just using our contractor data. So Linda's team has gone into the system and put resolution times, times when they're turning up to the site. So that's new. And then for the resolutions, they've gone back and actually ticked it off when the fault occurred. Because a lot of the time it's just sat not being signed off for months, and then it all goes and happens at once. So Linda's team's put quite a lot of work into going back and accurately looking at the data of when that when those results were completed. So as a result of that, the November wastewater resolutions changed from 453 to 47 hours. December changed from 433 to 89. and year-to-date changed from 93 to 76. So they've only looked at November and December so far, but they'll be going back and having a look at the rest of the year to see what the actual year-to-date should be. And they'll be doing that for not just wastewater. There'll also be some rural and urban water that we do internally that the contractor doesn't do, that data will now start being recorded accurately as well. But other than that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Trey, on page 78, there's a number that really intrigues me. Stormwater, 4,577 hours.
Yep,
That's
that'll be
190 days.
that'll be one of those cases of I think it's probably just one case, and it just hasn't been signed off properly, or there's been duplicate service requests pulled up, which that has finished early, but the original one isn't signed off. But that's the type of work that Linda's team is going to be doing to fix a lot of those small errors.
I'll come and help you out, Trey. So this is obviously our KPI reporting focus on the contractor, thinking that the contractor was the cause for most of the inaccuracies. We believe now we've got that accurate, but in doing that, have found that keeping our own house in order hasn't been that great. And so some additional fields have been added to the system, and we're using smart track data, which is tracking our vehicles, so we know when people actually have been there, so we can actually put correct data, and the team have been instructed to go back to the 1st of July and get it right. So that will take some time, but we will get there.
So Trey, tell us again about this report going forward.
So going forward, you're not going to see any of these graphs and none of these tables anymore. You'll just see the quarterly data. So you see where your first quarter, second quarter, third quarter target and actuals are. And then because the next one will be for quarter 3, you'll see any failures for quarter 3. There'll be an explanation as to why this occurred, and then there'll be an explanation as how we're going to fix it. Where those cases we can fix. There will be some where we've already blown the target because the target was 0, stuff like that. But that'll still be included as just a kind of FYI kind of thing.
Excellent.
So a wee moment in history, the person who moves this is the last time we'll be moving forward.
Happy to move it.
So Councillor Finch wants the honour. Who wants to second that? Councillor Ludeman, all in favour?
Aye.
And against, carried. Right, thank you, Trey. Sharon, audit recommendation monitoring report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There has been no updates on this report at all since last time. So
Is there anything still outstanding?
everything that's still on it.
Yeah.
But some of them are things that to fix one, you break the other worse. It's about banking signatories.
So no changes since the last meeting. Tell me about changes between now and the next meeting that you would anticipate.
The first item on the review of journal entries, it said that it found that I'd reviewed a journal entry, which was actually not what they found at all. That what they found is me showing another staff member how to correct something within the system and create an auto journal. So that's just going to stay there. There's nothing we can do to make that go away. So we have actually put in place for next year, which I can update. The next point is about our impairment on our development properties and stuff, and getting in early and considering that, which we hadn't done because of advice we were given the prior year, so we've got that sorted. Today we've spoken about improvements to Category A reporting. David and I have, so that'll be coming hopefully to the next meeting. And we've also talked about how the KPIs and SSPs are going to be going forward and how they're doing a lot of work on them. The next two we can't do anything about. It's about the banking signatories and how many people we have authorising things, because to do one you break the other. So going forward we do have some things, but they won't be able to be taken, a lot of them, until the next meeting or the next annual report.
I'm comfortable with that. Any questions or comments? Not. Councillor Payne has moved. Who's seconding? Councillor Herbert, thank you very much. All in favour?
Aye.
Carried. Page 91, so terms of reference report. So the current terms of reference at the start of the agenda is proposed to be superseded by the terms of reference on page 92. The changes of note I've identified in my report. So we're changing the frequency from 6 times a year to 6 weekly, because we always review everything around the terms of reference. Second one is combining internal and external audit. And as explained at the workshop last week, we've done that because we don't have an internal function at the moment. We're not planning to resource it, and we're certainly not funding it. But if you go back and you compare the two sections 4 and 5, the original, it basically says the same thing. So we'll just combine it under the audit. We've talked about engagement with our external auditors, and we agreed that the opportunity is there any time, but formally twice a year, which is, first one is when the audit plan is set, and the second one is obviously the management report, as you were the audit report sign off at the end of the annual report process. And the third one is just acknowledging the power to receive capital projects reports, which was a minor word change in item 11. So happy to take any further discussion or questions on that. If not, we will move the recommendations 1 and 2, moved by
I've got a question, Dave, sorry.
Councillor Graham.
Right, through you. This is for the remainder of this
term. Yes. Yeah.
I'll move it.
Yeah, it's good call, because the recommendation says for the 2025 calendar year should be for the current electoral term. Should be the wording. Adopts the amended terms of reference for the remainder of the current electoral term. Are you moving?
Yeah, I'm happy to move.
Yeah. Seconded Councillor Payne. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. The next council meeting is on the 20th. I won't be at that meeting, so I'll rely on this committee to speak very, very strongly in support of this at council. Thank you for that. And again, just reflect on the workshop last week and the benefits of that. Thank you very much for your input, those present and those who contacted me during the time leading up to it. So we now need to move into committee to receive a report, moved by Councillor Kennedy, seconded by Councillor Finch. All in favour?
Aye.
Oh, yes. So when we do that, we will end the live stream. Okay. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? And we'll just take a 2-minute recess.